On his birthday, the wealthy businessman couldn't get a table at the restaurant until a single mother invited him to sit down. And what happened next left everyone absolutely speechless. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end. And let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. Now, let me tell you about Marcus Sterling. He was turning 34 at that exact moment, and the only thing he wanted was a perfectly cooked steak and complete silence. It wasn't asking for much, or at least that's what he thought when he pushed open the door of the busiest restaurant in Charleston that Friday night. The place had just opened 3 weeks ago, waiting lists stretching for days, flawless reviews on every single rating site, and a line that wrapped around the entire block on regular evenings. Marcus didn't have a reservation. He hadn't planned anything. He simply left the office at 9 in the evening, saw those warm restaurant lights glowing, and thought the universe was finally cooperating with him. Oh, how wrong he was. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Sterling Rose. Do you have a reservation? The host was a young man with a perfectly rehearsed smile and a clipboard in his hands that seemed to contain the secrets of the entire universe. I don't have a reservation, Marcus replied with the confidence of someone who had never needed one before. But it's just one table for one person. The host looked at the clipboard. Then he looked at Marcus. Then he looked at the clipboard again, as if expecting something magical to suddenly appear between the lines. Unfortunately, sir, we are completely booked tonight. Completely? Yes, sir. Marcus looked around. The restaurant was spacious, beautifully lit with rich mahogany tables, and a bar in the center that seemed to have been transported directly from some classic old movie. There was activity, of course, but there were also empty spaces, unoccupied chairs, an entire table in the corner that looked completely abandoned. What about that table over there? Marcus pointed. Reserved, sir. For what time? For now. But there's no one sitting there. They haven't arrived yet, sir. Marcus took a deep breath. It was his birthday. He had spent the entire day in back-to-back meetings. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages he didn't want to answer. All he wanted was to eat something decent and pretend that day didn't exist. Look, he tried a different approach, lowering his voice a bit, as if he were about to reveal a state secret. Today is my birthday. The host blinked. Congratulations, sir. Thank you. So, considering this special occasion, maybe you could make an exception? Unfortunately, sir, we have no way to accommodate anyone without a reservation tonight, but I can put your name on the waiting list. How long is the wait? Approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes. Marcus almost laughed. Almost, but the exhaustion was greater than his sense of humor. 2 hours and 40 minutes? He repeated, just to make sure he had heard correctly. It's an estimate, sir. It could be a bit longer. Or a bit shorter? Unlikely, sir. It was impressive, really. Marcus had already closed multi-million-dollar contracts with less resistance than this. He had already convinced skeptical investors, difficult partners, and even an entire board of directors who wanted him gone. But there he was, utterly defeated by a guy in his 20s with a clipboard and an unwavering smile. All right, Marcus started to back away. Thank you anyway. Would you like me to write down your name for a future occasion? No, thank you. He was already turning around when he heard a voice coming from one of the nearby tables. Hey, mister! Marcus looked in the direction of the sound. A woman with hair pulled back in a messy ponytail was waving at him. Next to her, a small girl watched him with huge, curious eyes, holding a green crayon as if it were the most precious paintbrush in the world. You, the woman pointed directly at Marcus. The birthday guy. You can sit here with us. Marcus stood still for a second, processing the information. Excuse me? There's a spare chair. We don't bite. The girl tilted her head to the side. I bite sometimes, she corrected seriously, but only when I'm very hungry. The mother gave her daughter a light tap on the arm. Emma, honey, we don't need to share the whole family history with people we just met. But you said he was going to sit with us. Now he's part of the dinner. Being part of the dinner doesn't mean being part of the family. But it's almost the same thing. Marcus decided to step in before the situation got even more complicated. I'm Marcus, he extended his hand to the woman, and thank you so much for this, really. She shook her hand firmly. Rebecca, and this professional interrogator here is Emma.
I'm 5 years old, Emma informed him, as if that explained everything. Congratulations, Marcus replied automatically. Emma frowned. It's not my birthday, it's yours. Oh, right. Rebecca let out a short laugh. Relax, she makes everyone uncomfortable. It's a natural talent. The waiter appeared at that moment, notepad in hand, looking at the new table arrangement with a slightly confused expression. Will you be ordering too, sir? Yes, I will. What do you recommend? The house special is excellent. Prime ribeye with herb butter, accompanied by roasted fingerling potatoes and grilled seasonal vegetables. Perfect, I'll have that. And to drink?
Drinking water on your birthday, sweetheart. But you always make me drink water. Because you're 5 years old. So what? So when you're old enough, you can choose whatever you want. Emma seemed to consider that for a moment. The waiter wrote everything down and walked away, leaving the three of them in momentary silence. Marcus looked around, still trying to understand how he had ended up there. 20 minutes earlier, he was planning to eat alone anywhere that had an available table. Now he was sitting with the stranger and her 5-year-old daughter, who apparently had very strong opinions about hydration. So, Rebecca began, resting her chin on her hand, what does a person do to end up alone on their own birthday? Works too much, apparently. Nobody called you? Family? Friends? They called. I didn't answer. Why not? Marcus thought about the answer. Because I didn't want to explain why I was alone on my birthday. Rebecca let out a genuine laugh, the kind that comes from deep in the belly. That's the most honest thing I've heard all month. You're strange, Emma declared, still holding the crayon, but nice strange. Thank you, I think. The food started to arrive. First Rebecca and Emma's plates, then Marcus's. The aroma was incredible, and for a moment he completely forgot how bizarre the situation was. What do you do for work? Rebecca asked while cutting Emma's food into smaller, manageable pieces. Business, Marcus replied vaguely. Business? That's very specific. It's complicated. That's fine. I work at a veterinarian clinic. Nothing complicated, just animals trying to bite me all day. Sounds fun. It's more interesting than it seems. Last week, a parrot cursed at me in Spanish. Marcus nearly choked on his steak. Really? Really, the owner was more embarrassed than the bird. Emma lifted her head. Did the parrot say a bad word, Mama? It did, sweetheart, but you can't repeat it. What bad word? Emma. Okay. Marcus was genuinely having fun. It was strange, it was completely unexpected, and it was exactly the opposite of everything he had planned for that evening. The waiter returned to check if everything was all right. He looked at the three of them, smiled warmly, and said, "It's so nice to see a family dining together these days. You make an adorable trio." Marcus froze. Rebecca's eyes widened. Emma looked at the waiter as if he had just said the sky was bright green. "We're not a family," Emma corrected with the brutal honesty that only 5-year-olds possess. "He's a stranger who couldn't get a table." The waiter turned red. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I assumed that—" "It's okay," Rebecca interrupted quickly, trying to save the guy from further embarrassment. "It happens." The waiter walked away mumbling apologies, and a strange silence fell over the table. Marcus looked at Rebecca, Rebecca looked at Marcus, Emma continued eating as if absolutely nothing had happened. "Well," Rebecca finally broke the silence, "that was awkward." "A little," Marcus admitted. "At least the food is good." "That's very true." Emma raised her fork triumphantly. "I liked him, Mama. Can we keep him?" Rebecca covered her face with her hands. "Emma, he's not a dog." "I know, dogs are furrier." Marcus laughed, a real laugh, one of those he hadn't given in months, maybe even years. And in that moment, sitting at a makeshift table with two complete strangers, he realized that this birthday had just taken a completely unexpected turn. Are you enjoying this story? Drop a like if you believe in unexpected connections, and keep watching to see what happens next. The waiter was still recovering from the embarrassment when Emma decided it was time to conduct a complete interrogation. Marcus had barely swallowed the first piece of steak when the girl dropped her fork, crossed her arms on the table, and stared at him with the intensity of a professional detective. "Do you have a dog?" she fired off. "No, I don't." "A cat?" "No."
Fish?
No. Hamster? No. Turtle? No. Emma, Rebecca interrupted. Let the man eat. But Mama, I need to know if he likes animals. People who don't like animals are suspicious. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Suspicious of what? Of being bad, Emma answered as if that were completely obvious. Every movie villain doesn't like animals. That's not true, Rebecca countered. Some villains have cats. Cats don't count, Mama. Cats are mysterious. Marcus decided to join the conversation. I like animals, I just don't have time to take care of one. Emma seemed to consider that answer for a long moment. Okay, she finally conceded, you passed the test. What a relief, Marcus murmured, genuinely amused. Rebecca shook her head, smiling. I'm sorry about her. When Emma decides to investigate someone, there's no escape. I'm very good at finding things out, Emma confirmed with pride. Last week, I found out where Mommy hid the cookies. And ate them all before dinner, Rebecca completed. That's an accusation without proof. You had chocolate all over your mouth, Emma. Coincidence? Marcus laughed again, a laugh that came from deep inside, one of those he hadn't given in months, maybe years. The dynamic between mother and daughter was like watching a live comedy show with perfect timing and razor-sharp responses. So, Marcus, Rebecca turned her attention to him, you work in business. What kind of business? Investments, he replied, keeping the answer purposely vague. Investments in what, mainly? Companies. What kind of companies? Various kinds. Rebecca narrowed her eyes playfully. You're good at not answering questions, you know that? It's a talent I developed over the years. My mama is also good at not answering. When I ask if I can have a pony, she never says yes or no, she just makes that face. What face? Marcus asked, intrigued. Rebecca demonstrated. It was a perfect mixture of despair, forced patience, and a slight touch of someone seriously considering running away to a deserted island. That face, Emma pointed, she makes it a lot. I can imagine why, Marcus commented. Hey, Rebecca protested, I'm an excellent mother. The best, Emma agreed enthusiastically, but you still haven't given me the pony. Because we live in an apartment, Emma. The pony could sleep in my room. Ponies don't sleep in rooms. How do you know? Have you ever asked a pony? Rebecca looked at Marcus with an expression that clearly said, help me, please. Does she always win the arguments? He asked. Always. It's completely exhausting. Dinner continued at this wonderful pace. Emma asked impossible questions, Rebecca responded with sharp sarcasm, and Marcus found himself laughing at things he normally wouldn't even notice. It was strange, comfortable, completely off the script he had imagined for that evening. At some point, Emma started drawing on the paper the restaurant provided for children. She worked with absolute concentration, tongue sticking out slightly, choosing colors with the seriousness of a professional artist. What are you drawing? He asked. My table, she replied without looking up. Can I see? Emma turned the paper toward him. There were 3 figures drawn in crayon, a woman with brown hair, a small girl in a purple dress, and a very tall man with a confused expression on his face. That's me, Marcus pointed to the tall man. Yes, you're confused because you don't know what you're doing here. Marcus looked at Rebecca with raised eyebrows. She's frighteningly perceptive. I know, sometimes I think she reads minds. I don't read minds, Mama, I just pay attention. The waiter returned with the check. Marcus was faster and reached out to grab it before anyone else could. Let me get this, he said firmly. No way. You saved me from spending my birthday alone. It's the least I can do. We didn't save you, we invited you to sit down. Those are different things. Still, Marcus, Rebecca used a firm but amused tone. I pay my own bills. I always have. Just because you showed up doesn't mean that's going to change. He stared at her for a moment. There was something about the way she said it, without aggression, without excessive defensiveness, just a simple statement of fact, a clear line she made a point of maintaining, and honestly, he respected that. All right, he conceded, then each person pays their own. That I accept. Emma raised her hand like she was in school, and who pays for mine? I pay for yours, sweetheart, like always, Rebecca said. But if I pay for mine, can I order dessert? You don't have any money. I have $3 in my backpack. $3 won't pay for a dessert here, Emma. Then this restaurant is very expensive. It's a fancy restaurant. What's fancy? Expensive and pretty. Emma looked around with a critical air. It's not that pretty. Marcus had to bite his lip to keep from laughing too loud. This child was absolutely hilarious.
They paid separate bills, as agreed. When they got up to leave, Marcus realized he didn't want the night to end. It was such a strange feeling. He spent most of his time trying to make things finish faster. Meetings, business dinners, obligatory conversations, everything seemed like a race against the clock. But there, in that moment, he wanted the clock to slow down, to stop, to give him more time. They left the restaurant, and the fresh air of Charleston welcomed them warmly. The streets of the historic downtown were lit up with old lampposts, casting a beautiful golden light over the stone sidewalks. There were couples strolling hand in hand, musicians playing on street corners, the rich smell of coffee coming from somewhere nearby. Emma held her mother's hand and started hopping between the stones on the sidewalk, carefully avoiding stepping on the lines. "Do you live far from here?" Rebecca asked.
About 20 minutes by car. And now are you going home to sleep? Marcus looked at his watch. It wasn't even 10 o'clock yet. Probably, he replied without much conviction. Rebecca seemed to notice the hesitation in his voice. Or, she suggested casually, we could walk a bit. There's a cafe near here that stays open until midnight, if you're not in a hurry to get back to your planned solitude. Planned solitude? You were the one who said you wanted to spend your birthday alone. I said I didn't want to answer phone calls. Same thing. Emma stopped hopping and looked directly at Marcus with those big, knowing eyes. You should come. The cafe has hot chocolate with marshmallows. That's a very good argument, Marcus admitted. I know, I'm very convincing. Rebecca smiled. It wasn't a calculated or rehearsed smile. It was something natural that appeared in the corners of her eyes before reaching her lips. Marcus realized he was paying far too much attention to that smile. So? She asked, waiting for his answer. He looked at Emma, who was now making an exaggerated puppy dog face that should be illegal. He looked at Rebecca, who was waiting for the answer with a raised eyebrow and an amused expression. He looked at the beautifully lit street, at the night that was still young, at the possibility of doing something different for the first time in a very long while. All right, he said finally, but only because the hot chocolate has marshmallows. Emma celebrated by raising both arms high above her head. I knew you would accept. How did you know? Because nobody can resist marshmallows, silly. They started walking side by side through the charming streets of Charleston, and Marcus realized this was officially the strangest birthday of his entire life, and maybe, just maybe, the very best one too. What he didn't know yet was that this simple walk was about to change much more than just his evening. You won't believe what happens when they reach the cafe. The connection deepens in ways Marcus never expected. Keep watching. This is where everything changes. The streets of Charleston seem to have been designed specifically for this kind of night. Golden lights casting warm glows, old cobblestone sidewalks, and a gentle breeze that made Emma run ahead as if she were chasing invisible fireflies through the air. Marcus walked beside Rebecca, keeping a relaxed pace while the girl zigzagged between lampposts and park benches like she owned the entire city. Does she always have this much energy? He asked. Always. It's like having a small tornado living with me. And how do you survive? Coffee. Lots and lots of coffee. And pretending I know what I'm doing. Emma stopped abruptly in front of a lit storefront, a toy store still open with a window display of dolls that looked like they came from another century. Mama, look at this one. She pointed to a doll with a blue dress and vibrant red hair. She looks like Aunt Linda. Aunt Linda doesn't have red hair, Emma. But she has that angry face, look. Rebecca approached the window and tilted her head, studying the doll carefully. You know what? You're right. That's exactly Aunt Linda's face when someone eats the last piece of pie. Marcus looked at the doll more closely. It had a severe expression, as if it were silently judging everyone who passed by. Who's Aunt Linda? He asked. My older sister, Rebecca replied. She thinks she knows absolutely everything about raising children, but she doesn't have any herself. Ah, one of those aunts who gives unsolicited advice? Exactly. Last week, she sent me an article about the dangers of sugar, 10 pages long. Did you read it? I used it to line my neighbor's cat's litter box. Marcus laughed out loud. That's high-level passive-aggressive revenge. I know.
It's my specialty." They kept walking, the night air growing cooler. Emma was now fascinated by a street musician playing a guitar on a corner. She stopped to listen, swaying her body from side to side as if she were at her own private concert. "Can I give him a coin, Mama?" Rebecca searched in her purse and found some coins. "Here, go ahead." Emma ran to the musician, deposited the coins carefully in the guitar case, and came back hopping on one foot. "He said thank you and called me princess." "You are a princess," Rebecca confirmed. "I know, but it's nice when other people recognize it." Marcus shook his head in amazement. "Her confidence is absolutely impressive. I've been working on that since she was born. Women need to believe in themselves from a young age. The world will try to convince her otherwise later." There was something about the way Rebecca said that, a layer of hard experience beneath the casual tone. Marcus realized she probably learned that lesson the hard way herself. The cafe appeared on the next corner, a small, cozy place with wooden tables on the sidewalk and a sign that blinked irregularly. The name was simple: Coffee House. Nothing creative, but honest. "This is it," Rebecca announced. "The best hot chocolate in town, according to Emma." "According to everyone," Emma corrected seriously. "I just agree with the majority." They went in and chose a table near the window. The interior was absolutely cozy, with exposed brick walls and old photographs of Charleston scattered everywhere. Soft music played in the background, something Marcus didn't recognize but that fit perfectly with the whole atmosphere. The server came to take their orders: hot chocolate for Emma, coffee with milk for Rebecca, and an espresso for Marcus. "Espresso at this hour?" Rebecca questioned. "You're never going to sleep." "I rarely sleep well anyway." "Insomnia?" "Mind too busy." "I understand that completely. Mine doesn't shut off easily either." Emma rested her chin in her hands and looked at both of them with those incredibly observant eyes. "You two are alike." "Alike how?" Rebecca asked. "You both make worried faces when you think nobody's looking." Marcus and Rebecca looked at each other, slightly shocked. The observation was far too accurate to be ignored. "You need to stop paying so much attention to people, Emma," Rebecca said gently. "Why?" "Because it's scary." "But it's fun." The orders arrived quickly. Emma attacked the hot chocolate with genuine enthusiasm, managing to create a foam mustache in less than 10 seconds. Rebecca took a discreet photo with her phone. "For the album," she explained. "Do you have a lot of photos of her?" "Thousands, literally thousands. My phone is always running out of memory." "Mama documents everything," Emma confirmed, wiping the foam mustache with the back of her hand. "Especially when I do things wrong." "Especially when you do things wrong. It's blackmail material for when you are a teenager."
What's blackmail? Something you'll learn when you're older. You always say that. Because it's true. Marcus drank the espresso in comfortable silence, observing the interaction between them. There was a lightness there that he didn't find anywhere else in his entire life. No hidden agenda, no business expectations, no exhausting formality. Just two people being exactly who they were, completely authentic. "Can I ask you something?" Rebecca said suddenly. "Sure." "Why did you really want to spend your birthday alone?" Marcus thought about the answer carefully. The real answer was complicated. It involved years of obligatory parties, corporate events where everyone wanted something from him, forced smiles, and painfully empty conversations. But he didn't want to get into all that now. "Sometimes you get tired of pretending you're having fun," he said finally. Rebecca nodded slowly, understanding completely. "I get that. Before Emma was born, I went to all the parties, all the events. Then I realized I preferred staying home watching movies with her than being anywhere crowded with people I barely knew." Sounds like a very good trade. It is, but people don't understand. They think you're depressed or antisocial. "And do you explain?" "Not anymore. I got tired of justifying myself to everyone." Marcus smiled genuinely. "I got tired too." Emma finished the hot chocolate and started yawning, the kind of yawn that starts small and ends absolutely huge, almost swallowing her whole face. "Someone's sleepy," Rebecca observed. "I'm not," Emma protested, yawning again right in the middle of the sentence. "Of course not. You're completely awake." "I am. My eyes are just resting. It's different." Marcus looked at his watch.
almost midnight. The night had passed so much faster than he could have ever imagined. "I should let you two go," he said reluctantly. "Yeah, probably. Tomorrow she has school and I have to work early." That's when Emma, in a quick move that caught everyone completely by surprise, reached out and grabbed her mother's phone from the table. "Emma, what are you doing?" "What's your number?" Emma asked Marcus directly, completely ignoring her mother. "Emma!" Rebecca tried to grab the phone back, but the girl was faster, hiding the device behind her back. "We need his number, Mama." "We just met him, Emma." "So what? He's nice, and you liked him." Rebecca turned red as a tomato. "I didn't say that. You laughed at his jokes. You never laugh at anyone's jokes." Marcus watched the scene, trying desperately to hide his smile. The girl had absolutely relentless logic. "She has a point," he said carefully. Rebecca shot him a look that clearly said, "Don't help." "Look," Marcus continued, taking his own phone from his pocket, "I can give you my number, no commitment whatsoever. If you want to have coffee again someday, great. If not, no problem at all." Emma extended her mother's phone toward him with a triumphant smile. "See, Mama? He wants to give his number. It wasn't me who asked." "You literally just asked, Emma." "But he agreed, so it doesn't count." Rebecca sighed, clearly defeated. "All right, but only because you won't leave me alone until you get what you want." "That's absolutely true," Emma confirmed without any shame whatsoever. Marcus typed the number into Rebecca's phone and returned the device. "Done." Emma looked at the screen, checked if the number was saved correctly, and nodded, satisfied. "Perfect. Now we can go." They paid for the drinks and left the cafe. The street was emptier now, with only a few pedestrians still wandering around. The air had cooled down considerably, and Emma snuggled close against her mother. "It was a good night," Rebecca said as they walked back to where they had parked. "Unexpected, but good." "For me too," Marcus agreed wholeheartedly. "Look, I don't usually do this. Impromptu meetings, long conversations with strangers, that kind of thing. It's not my normal." "I understand completely." "But it was nice. You're different." "Different good or different strange?" "I'm still deciding." Marcus laughed warmly. "Fair enough." They stopped near a modest car parked on the street. Rebecca opened the back door and helped Emma get in carefully. The girl was almost asleep already. "Marcus," Emma murmured with her eyes closed. "What?" "Mama is going to text you. I guarantee it." Rebecca quickly closed the door. "Good night, Marcus." "Good night, Rebecca, and thank you for everything, really." She got in the car and drove off into the night. Marcus stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, watching the taillights disappear around the corner. Then he walked to his own car, parked a few blocks ahead.
If you're loving this unexpected connection, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. The next day at 10 in the morning, his phone buzzed with a message. Emma insisted. "Coffee at 3? Same place as yesterday. Only if you don't have commitments with your planned solitude." Marcus reread the message 3 times before responding, and for the first time in a long while, he canceled a meeting without thinking twice. Marcus arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early and spent the first 10 minutes checking his own reflection on the phone screen, trying to figure out if his hair was presentable. It was pathetic. He knew it was absolutely pathetic, but he couldn't help it. Emma was the first to appear at the cafe door, running ahead of her mother as if she were participating in some kind of competition. She spotted Marcus, waved frantically with both hands, and crossed the room in a straight line to his table. "You came," she announced, as if there were any doubt. "I said I would come." Adults see lots of things they don't follow through on. Mama says that all the time. Rebecca arrived right behind, slightly out of breath. "Emma, you can't go running off like that. We agreed." "But I saw him, Mama, and he was alone, and he looked kind of lost." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I looked lost?" "A little," Emma confirmed without any mercy, "like when my goldfish looks at the aquarium glass without knowing what to do." "Thanks for the comparison." "You're welcome." Rebecca sat in the chair across from Marcus, leaving Emma between the two of them. "Sorry for being late. Someone decided she needed to change clothes 3 times before leaving." "I wanted to look pretty, seriously. It's a date." "It's not a date," Rebecca corrected quickly.
Yes, it is. We're meeting him, so it's a date. Marcus decided not to get into this particular discussion. What are you going to order? Hot chocolate, Emma answered immediately. You had hot chocolate last night, Rebecca reminded her, and I'm going to have it again today. It's my favorite. You can't live on just hot chocolate, Emma. Why not? Because you need other nutrients. Chocolate has nutrients. Not enough. How do you know? Are you a scientist? Rebecca looked at Marcus with an expression of complete defeat. See what I deal with every single day? I'm starting to get an idea. The server came to take their orders. Hot chocolate for Emma, who celebrated silently with a little fist pump, coffee with milk for Rebecca, and another espresso for Marcus. You really like strong coffee, Rebecca observed. It's what keeps me going. Mama, too. She gets grumpy without coffee. Emma, what? It's true. Some truths don't need to be shared with everyone. But he's not everyone. He's Marcus. Marcus hid his smile behind his hand. The orders arrived quickly. Emma attacked the hot chocolate with the same intensity as always, while Rebecca and Marcus talked about trivial things: the weather, the cafe's atmosphere, traffic, plans for the weekend. Are you working tomorrow? Probably. There's always something. You never take time off? Rarely. That's not healthy, you know. I know, but you keep doing it. Yeah, I know that too. Emma lifted her head from the hot chocolate, a small chocolate mustache forming on her upper lip. You need a hobby. A hobby? Something you do just because you like it. Mama has hobbies. She does? She likes to read and complain about the neighbors. Emma, Rebecca protested. I don't complain about the neighbors. Yes, you do. Last week you said the lady on the third floor is more gossipy than a television show. That was an observation, not a complaint. What's the difference? The difference is, look, just drink your chocolate. Marcus laughed. It was impossible not to laugh. The dynamic between the two was like watching a live comedy show with quick responses and absolutely perfect timing. After coffee, Rebecca suggested a walk to a nearby park. Emma immediately approved the idea because, according to her, the park had ducks, and ducks were better than people. Why are ducks better than people? Asked Marcus as they walked. Because ducks don't ask difficult questions, Emma answered as if it were completely obvious. Fair enough. The park was one of those classic Charleston places, with ancient oak trees draped in Spanish moss, wooden benches worn smooth by time, and a small lake where some ducks actually swam in lazy circles. Emma ran towards them, stopping at the water's edge to watch with pure fascination. Don't get too close, Rebecca shouted. I know, Mama. Marcus and Rebecca walked more slowly, keeping Emma in constant sight. She's amazing, Marcus said. She's exhausting, Rebecca corrected. But yes, also amazing. You've done a good job with her. Thank you, but it's not easy. Raising a child alone is complicated. I imagine it is. Rebecca hesitated for a moment, as if deciding how much to share. Her father wasn't present from the beginning, so it's always been just me and her. He never showed up? No, at least not recently. Marcus noticed something change in her tone of voice, a subtle tension that wasn't there before. Recently? Before Rebecca could answer, Emma ran back, her eyes wide with excitement. Mama, a duck tried to steal my shoe. What do you mean it tried to steal your shoe? It came toward me and made that mean duck face. Ducks don't have mean faces, Emma. This one did. I saw it clearly. Marcus looked at the lake. The ducks continued swimming peacefully with absolutely no appearance of being villains. I think you scared it, he said. I don't scare anyone. I'm adorable. Modest, too, Rebecca murmured. They continued strolling through the park. Emma ran ahead, came back with questions, asked random things, ran again. Marcus realized he was smiling more than he had smiled in months, maybe years. It was strange. He was completely out of his natural environment. No meetings, no negotiations, no strategies. And yet he felt more present there than in any conference room. You're quiet, Rebecca observed. I'm thinking. About what? About how this is different from everything I know. Different good? I think so, yes. Rebecca smiled, that smile that started in the eyes before reaching the lips. That's when she stopped walking. The smile disappeared instantly. Marcus followed her gaze and saw a man standing on the other side of the park. tall, dark hair, wearing a leather jacket. He was watching the three of them with an expression Marcus couldn't quite decipher. "Rebecca, is everything okay?" "No," she replied quietly, her voice suddenly tense. "That's Derek, Emma's father." Marcus looked at the man again. He was still standing there, but now he had started walking toward them with purpose. He reappeared a few weeks ago, says he wants to be part of her life, after 5 years without a single word. And do you believe him? No, but he doesn't seem willing to accept a no as an answer. Emma, who was a few meters ahead, finally noticed the man approaching. She came running back and positioned herself next to her mother, holding her hand tightly. "Mama." The girl's voice had lost all her earlier energy. "I know, sweetheart." Derek didn't give up that easily. What he does next will shake Rebecca's entire world. You need to see what happens in part 3. Would you like me to continue with parts 4, 5, and 6?
The silence lasted 3 seconds, but it felt like an absolute eternity. Derek remains crouched down, that forced smile starting to waver on his face. "Emma, it's me, your father." "I know who you are," Emma replied, her voice small but surprisingly firm. "You're the man from the old photos." Derek's smile disappeared completely. He stood up slowly and looked at Rebecca with something dark flickering in his eyes. "You don't talk about me to her?" "I do," Rebecca replied with icy calm. "I show her the photos when she asks. The problem is, she rarely asks." Marcus remained a few steps back, observing carefully. He didn't know what his place was in this situation. Probably none. But he also couldn't just leave them alone with this man. Derek finally seemed to notice his presence properly. "And you are?" "Marcus." "Marcus," Derek repeated, as if testing the name on his tongue. "And what are you to Rebecca?" "A friend." "Friend," Derek let out a short, bitter laugh. "Interesting. Rebecca was always very selective with friends." "Derek," Rebecca interrupted before the conversation could go any further downhill. "What do you want?" "To talk. Is that asking too much?" "Considering you spent 5 years without a single word, yes, that's asking quite a bit." Derek put his hands in his jacket pockets, assuming a posture he probably thought was casual and non-threatening. "People change, Rebecca. I've changed." "Good for you. Send a Christmas card with the updates." "I'm serious." "Me too. Very serious." Emma tugged at the hem of her mother's shirt. "Mama, can we leave? The ducks are waiting for me." "The ducks left, sweetheart." "Then we can go after them." Rebecca looked at her daughter, then at Derek, her jaw set. Relieving now. "Rebecca, wait." Derek took a step forward. "I just want a chance. A real conversation without all this hostility." "Hostility?" Rebecca raised an eyebrow. "You show up out of nowhere, follow me to a park, and you think I'm being hostile?" "I didn't follow you." "Derek, you live on the other side of town. This park is 3 blocks from my apartment. The probability of it being a coincidence is lower than me winning the lottery." "You don't play the lottery." "Exactly." Marcus almost laughed out loud but held it back. Rebecca's timing was absolutely impeccable, even under this kind of pressure. Derek took a deep breath, clearly trying to maintain his composure. "All right, I admit it. I knew you'd be here. I stopped by the cafe and one of the servers mentioned you had come here. Wonderful. Now you're interrogating cafe employees about my location. That's not strange at all." "I just want to be part of my daughter's life." "She's 5 years old, Derek. 5. You missed the first smile, the first steps, the first words, the first day of school. All the sleepless nights, all the fevers, all the nightmares. And now you show up wanting to participate as if you could just press a button and that's it." Derek opened his mouth to respond, but Emma was faster. "Mama, he's making that face people make when they don't know what to say." "What face?" Rebecca asked. "That fish face, mouth open, eyes wide." Marcus had to turn his face away to hide his smile. The girl was absolutely relentless. Derek closed his mouth abruptly. Look, he tried again, his voice more controlled. I know I messed up. I know I wasn't there, but I want to fix this. Some things can't be fixed, Derek. Some things you just learn to live with the consequences. She's my daughter, too. Biologically, yes. In all the other ways that actually matter, no. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. Marcus watched Derek clench his fists and then relax them, as if he were fighting some kind of internal battle. This isn't going to end like this, Derek said, finally, his voice lower and more threatening. I have rights. You have rights you never exercised. There's a difference. The law doesn't see it that way. Then get a lawyer. But until then, stay away from me and my daughter. Rebecca took Emma's hand firmly and started walking in the opposite direction. Marcus hesitated for just a second, looked at Derek one more time, and then followed the two of them. Rebecca, Derek called one last time. This isn't over. She didn't respond, didn't look back, just kept walking. The walk back to the parking lot was silent and tense. Emma held her mother's hand tightly, looking at the ground. Rebecca maintained a neutral expression, but Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders, in the way she was breathing. Are you okay? He asked quietly. No, but I will be.
Can I help with anything? I don't know, but thank you for asking. They reached the car. Rebecca opened the door for Emma and helped the girl get in carefully. The date ended earlier than I expected, Marcus said. I'm sorry. I didn't imagine this was going to happen. You don't need to apologize. It wasn't your fault. Rebecca leaned against the car and crossed her arms, suddenly looking exhausted. He showed up 3 weeks ago, out of nowhere, said he's changed, that he wants to be a father, that he deserves a second chance. The whole rehearsed speech. And do you believe him? Not one bit. Derek never wanted responsibility. When he found out I was pregnant, his first reaction was to suggest we not go through with it. Marcus said nothing, just listened carefully. I raised her alone. I worked, studied, did everything that needed to be done, and now he shows up wanting to reap what he didn't sow. What do you think he really wants? Honestly, I don't know. Control, maybe? He was always like that. When he can't get something, he becomes obsessed until he gets it. Rebecca's phone buzzed loudly. She looked at the screen and sighed. It's him. Third message in 10 minutes. What's he saying? That he wants to talk, that I'm being unfair, that he'll seek other means if I don't cooperate. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Other means? Rebecca put her phone in her pocket, her hand shaking slightly. He's talking about filing for custody, says he has rights as a father and that he's going to enforce them. Can he do that? Technically, yes. Legally, any father can request a custody review. It doesn't mean he'll get it, but the process is exhausting, expensive, time-consuming. Emma appeared in the car window, her face pressed against the glass. Mama, can we go? I'm hungry. We're going, sweetheart. Rebecca looked at Marcus, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I'm sorry for involving you in this. It wasn't my intention. You didn't involve me. I chose to be here. She smiled, but it was a tired, worn smile. Thank you for everything. If you need anything, just let me know. Anything at all. Rebecca got in the car and started it. Marcus stood in the parking lot watching the vehicle drive away until it disappeared completely. That night, he couldn't sleep properly. He kept thinking about Derek, about Rebecca, about Emma, about how a simple afternoon had turned into something much more complicated and serious. And the next day, when his phone rang at 7 in the morning with Rebecca's name flashing on the screen, he knew things were about to get even worse. Marcus, her voice was shaky, barely holding together. He filed the petition, officially. I just received the notification. This is getting intense. If you're as invested in this story as I am, drop a comment with your thoughts. What would you do in Rebecca's situation? The legal notification arrived in a plain white envelope, the kind that seems completely harmless until you open it and discover your entire life is about to turn upside down. Rebecca read the document 3 times before she could actually process the words. Petition for custody review. Preliminary hearing in 30 days. Derek Collins versus Rebecca Brooks. She was sitting at the kitchen table when Marcus arrived 20 minutes after the phone call. Emma was still sleeping peacefully in her room, completely oblivious to the chaos that was forming around her. "Let me see," Marcus asked gently. Rebecca pushed the envelope toward him without saying anything, her hands trembling. He read quickly, his expression becoming more serious with each line he scanned. "He's alleging reverse parental abandonment," Marcus murmured. "What does that even mean?" Basically, he's saying you prevented him from exercising fatherhood, that it's your fault he wasn't there. That's a complete lie. He disappeared by his own choice. I know, but the law allows him to make that claim. It's up to you to prove otherwise. Rebecca rubbed her eyes, feeling utterly exhausted. How do I prove someone wasn't present? Show the birthday photos where he doesn't appear, the calls that never happened, the absence of any financial support. Actually, yes, exactly that. She looked at him confused. Really? Communication records, bank transfers, any documented attempt at contact. If he doesn't have any of that, his claim falls apart completely. What if he makes up evidence? Then it gets complicated, but it's hard to fake 5 years of complete absence. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her hair disheveled and wearing a unicorn pajamas that were already getting too small for her growing body. "Why are you awake so early?" she asked, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "We were just talking, sweetheart. Do you want breakfast?" "I want pancakes." "Pancakes are for weekends." "Isn't today weekend?" "It's Tuesday, Emma." "Oh." She seemed genuinely disappointed. "Tuesday is a boring day." Benjamin smiled, despite everything. "Why is Tuesday boring?" "Because it's not Monday, which is the beginning, it's not Wednesday, which is the middle, it's not Friday, which is almost the weekend. Tuesday is just Tuesday." That's a very deep analysis for someone who just woke up. "I think a lot," Emma explained, seriously. "Mama says I think too much." "Your mother is right." Rebecca prepared breakfast while Marcus and Emma maintained a surprisingly philosophical conversation about the merits of each day of the week. It was completely surreal. A legal document threatening her entire family was hidden under a magazine, and her daughter was debating whether Thursday deserved more respect. "Marcus," Emma said suddenly, "do you know how to make pancakes?" "I do." "Better than Mama?" "Emma," Rebecca protested. "What? It's a valid question." Marcus looked at Rebecca carefully. "Can I try? Do you really want to make pancakes at 7 in the morning on a Tuesday?" "Why not? I'm already here." Rebecca hesitated. The situation was strange and getting stranger. A man she had known for less than 2 weeks was offering to make breakfast for her daughter while a custody case hung over their heads like a dark cloud. "All right," she gave in. "But if the pancakes turn out bad, Emma will never forgive you." "Understood. The pressure is high." Marcus found the ingredients and started working. Emma positioned herself right next to him like a demanding supervisor, commenting on absolutely every move. "You're mixing it wrong." "Wrong how?" "Too slow. The batter likes speed." "The batter likes speed?"
It's science. I'm pretty sure it's not. You don't know everything. Rebecca watched from the table, a cup of coffee warming her hands. There was something comforting about that scene, something she didn't know she needed so desperately. The pancakes were ready in minutes. They weren't perfect, a bit uneven around the edges, but Emma approved enthusiastically. "They're good," she declared after the first bite. "They're not better than Mama's, but they're good." "Thanks for the honest review," Marcus replied. "You're welcome. Honesty is important." After breakfast, Rebecca took Emma to school. Marcus stayed waiting in the apartment, rereading the legal document and making notes on his phone. When Rebecca came back, he had a complete list ready. "What's this?" she asked. "Things you'll need to gather. Financial records, proof of expenses with Emma, school history, medical reports, everything that shows you're the primary caregiver." "You really understand this?" Marcus hesitated for just a moment. "I know people who understand it." "What kind of people?" "Lawyers. Good lawyers." Rebecca crossed her arms defensively. Marcus, good lawyers cost money, money I don't have. I can help with that. No. Rebecca, no, she repeated more firmly. I don't accept charity. It's not charity, it's help. It's the same thing. Marcus stood up and approached her carefully. Look, I understand you want to solve this on your own. I respect that completely, but sometimes accepting help isn't weakness, it's strategy. Strategy? Derek probably hired a cheap lawyer who's going to try to pressure you until you give in. If you have a solid defense from the start, he'll realize it's not worth continuing. Rebecca was silent for a long moment, thinking. Why are you doing this? She asked finally. Doing what? All of this, helping me, showing up, making pancakes for my daughter at 7 in the morning. Marcus thought about the answer carefully. Because it's been a long time since I truly cared about something, and I care about you too. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged with something neither of them knew how to name yet. All right, Rebecca said, finally. I accept the help, but with one condition. What? You tell me who you really are, because nobody has good lawyers in their pocket without having a story behind it. Marcus took a deep breath. Fair enough, but this conversation is going to need more coffee. I just made a whole pot. Then we're good. He sat down again. Rebecca sat across from him, waiting. And before he could start explaining, her phone rang loudly. It was Emma's school. Miss Brooks, the voice on the other end was formal and urgent. We have a situation. A man showed up at the reception claiming to be Emma's father and asking for authorization to pick her up. Rebecca felt the ground disappear from under her feet, her heart dropping into her stomach. Don't let him get near her, she said, already grabbing her keys frantically. I'm on my way. Derek is escalating fast. What happens at the school will change everything. Part 4 is where the real fight begins.
Rebecca drove to the school in record time, her heart beating so hard she could hear it pounding in her ears like a drum. Marcus was in the passenger seat, quiet but completely present. When they arrived, Derek had already left. The principal explained that he tried to convince the receptionist that he had authorization to pick up Emma, but since his name wasn't on the official list of guardians, he was politely but firmly asked to leave. Emma didn't even know he had been there. This can't continue, Rebecca said in the car, still shaking with adrenaline and fear. He's getting bolder. I know, Marcus agreed. That's why you need solid legal protection. Now. And where do I find that? Marcus looked at her seriously. I know a place. The office was on the 23rd floor of one of the most impressive buildings in downtown Charleston. Rebecca looked at the mirrored glass facade and felt her stomach sink completely. Marcus, what place is this? The law firm I mentioned. This doesn't look like an ordinary office. It's not. They entered the lobby. Marble floors that gleamed like mirrors, a reception desk with 3 impeccably dressed employees, a chandelier that was probably made of actual crystals. Everything screamed money in a way that made Rebecca want to run away immediately. Mr. Sterling, the receptionist greeted Marcus with obvious familiarity. Mr. Patterson is waiting for you. Conference room 3. Rebecca stopped walking dead in her tracks. Mr. Sterling? Marcus turned to her, looking guilty. I was going to tell you. Tell me what, exactly? Maybe it's better if we talk after the meeting. No, we talk now. Marcus took a deep breath. An executive in an expensive suit walked past them, greeted Marcus with a respectful nod, and continued walking. I'm the founder of this office, not the law firm itself, but the company that finances it, Sterling Capital, Investments and Business Consulting. Rebecca was silent for 5 full seconds, her mind racing. You're rich. Yes. Like really, really rich. Yes. And you didn't think it was relevant to mention this before. I didn't want it to change the way you saw me. And you thought hiding it would be better? At the time, yes. Now, clearly not. An employee passed by pushing a coffee cart. She smiled warmly at Marcus and continued on her way, completely oblivious to the tension hanging thick in the air. Look, Marcus tried to explain, I spend my whole life surrounded by people who only approach me out of interest. When I met you, you had no idea who I was, and that was refreshing.
Refreshing? Rebecca repeated, her tone loaded with hurt and irony. I know how it sounds. It sounds like you treated me as a social experiment. That wasn't it at all. Then what was it? Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but was interrupted by a man in an impeccable suit who appeared in the hallway. Marcus, good to see you. And this must be Miss Brooks. David, this isn't the best time. Nonsense, you're already here. Come, the room is ready. David Patterson was the type of lawyer who seemed to have been born wearing a tie. Gray hair, confident smile, firm handshake that spoke of decades of winning cases. He led the two of them to a conference room with a panoramic view of the entire city. So, David sat down and opened a folder with practiced ease. Let me guess, abandoned father who suddenly discovered he has rights? Basically, Rebecca confirmed, still processing all the earlier revelations. Classic. I see this every week. The good news is that cases like this rarely succeed when there's solid documentation of abandonment. Do you have records? Some. I'll need more. Financial history, communications, anything that proves he didn't contribute materially or emotionally in the last 5 years. What if he claims I prevented him from participating? Then we counterattack. Witnesses, records of contact attempts on his end, which probably don't exist. Georgia law favors the primary caregiver in cases of prolonged abandonment. Rebecca looked at Marcus, who remained silent, watching. And how much is this going to cost? David smiled. It's already covered.
What do you mean it's already covered? Marcus called me yesterday. Consider it a favor between friends. I didn't ask for this. I know, Marcus finally spoke, but I offered. Rebecca stood up abruptly. Can I talk to you outside now? They went out into the hallway. The view of Charleston stretched through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but Rebecca wasn't interested in any scenery. What are you doing? She asked, her voice shaking. Trying to help. Paying lawyers without consulting me? That's not help, that's control. Rebecca, I'm not trying to control anything. Then what are you trying to do? Make sure you don't lose your daughter for lack of resources. And in return? Marcus seemed genuinely confused. In return for what? Nobody does this for free. Nobody. I do. Why? Because I care about you and about Emma, and because I can help. It's that simple. Rebecca crossed her arms, building a wall. There was something in Marcus's expression that seemed sincere, but she had spent too many years learning that sincerity was often just an illusion. I don't know if I can trust this, she admitted quietly. I understand, but let me prove it. What if you prove it and I still can't accept it? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Rebecca's phone buzzed loudly. A message from Derek. Heard you hired expensive lawyers. Interesting. Where did the money come from? Maybe the judge will want to know too. Rebecca showed the message to Marcus, her hands shaking. He's investigating you now, she said. Let him investigate. I have nothing to hide. But I do. I have a life that doesn't fit with this world. What if the judge thinks I'm using you? Nobody will think that. You don't know that. Marcus was silent for a moment, studying her face. What do you want to do? He asked gently. Rebecca looked at the conference room door, then at Marcus, then at the window overlooking the city. I need space, she said finally, to think, to process all of this. All right. It doesn't mean I'm giving up the legal help. It just means I need to understand where I fit in all of this before continuing. I understand. Do you? Not completely, but I respect it. Rebecca crossed her arms, building a wall. There was something in Marcus's expression that seemed sincere, but she had spent too many years learning that sincerity was often just an illusion. I don't know if I can trust this, she admitted quietly. I understand, but let me prove it. What if you prove it and I still can't accept it? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Rebecca's phone buzzed loudly. A message from Derek. Heard you hired expensive lawyers. Interesting. Where did the money come from? Maybe the judge will want to know too. Rebecca showed the message to Marcus, her hands shaking. He's investigating you now, she said. Let him investigate. I have nothing to hide. But I do. I have a life that doesn't fit with this world. What if the judge thinks I'm using you? Nobody will think that. You don't know that.
Marcus was silent for a moment, studying her face. "What do you want to do?" he asked gently. Rebecca looked at the conference room door, then at Marcus, then at the window overlooking the city. "I need space," she said finally, "to think, to process all of this. All right, it doesn't mean I'm giving up the legal help. It just means I need to understand where I fit in all of this before continuing." "I understand." "Do you?" "Not completely, but I respect it." Rebecca nodded slowly, feeling tears threatening. "I'm going to accept David's help, but you and me, we need a break." Marcus swallowed hard but didn't protest. "If that's what you need, then that's what we'll do." She went back into the conference room. Marcus stayed in the hallway, looking out the window, trying to understand how an attempt to help had turned into such a massive barrier between them. That night, Rebecca lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Emma was sleeping in the next room, safe, oblivious to everything happening. And for the first time in a long while, Rebecca wondered if she had made a terrible mistake letting someone get so close to her heart. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was David Patterson. Derek hired a new lawyer, one of the best in the city. This just got a lot more complicated. Rebecca closed her eyes and let the tears finally fall. Have you ever had to push away someone trying to help you? Tell me in the comments. This story is about to take another turn. 2 weeks passed, and Rebecca's apartment had never seemed so quiet. Not that there was a lack of noise. Emma continued talking nonstop about everything and nothing. The upstairs neighbor continued dragging furniture at the most inconvenient times, and the lady on the third floor's cat continued meowing in the hallway as if rehearsing for an opera. But something was missing. Or someone. "Mama," said Emma during breakfast one morning, "when is Marcus coming back?" Rebecca almost dropped her coffee cup. "He didn't go away, sweetheart. We're just taking some time." "Time for what?" "To think." "Think about what?" "Adult things." Emma frowned in that way that made her look exactly like Rebecca. "Adult things are complicated." "They are. That's why I don't want to grow up." "You'll change your mind someday." "I doubt it. Adults are always worried. You make that face like you ate something spoiled all the time." Rebecca tried not to laugh. "What face?" Emma demonstrated perfectly. It was a mixture of furrowed eyebrows, crooked mouth, and half-closed eyes. "That face. You've been making that face a lot lately." "Thanks for the observation." "You're welcome. I'm very observant, remember?" The custody petition was moving faster than Rebecca ever expected. David Patterson was efficient, organized, and apparently absolutely tireless. He called every single morning with updates, sent documents for review, and kept Rebecca informed of every single move from Derek's side. "His lawyer requested access to your financial records," David informed her during a call. "Can they do that?" "They can request it. Doesn't mean they'll get everything, but we need to be prepared." "Prepared how?" "Documenting every single penny you spent on Emma the last 5 years. School, doctor, clothes, food, everything." "That's going to take forever." "Welcome to the American judicial system, Rebecca." Rebecca spent the following nights organizing receipts, bank statements, and payment records. It was tedious, exhausting, and deeply depressing. Each paper was a painful reminder of everything she had done completely alone. Emma appeared in the bedroom doorway one night, holding her favorite pillow. "Mama, are you working again?" "I'm organizing some things, sweetheart." "You're always organizing things." "I know, but it's important."
Emma came closer and looked at the massive pile of papers spread across the bed. "What's all this?" "Bills, receipts, school documents." "Looks boring." "It's very boring." "Then why are you doing it?" Rebecca sighed deeply. "Because sometimes we need to do boring things to protect the important things." "Like me?" "Exactly like you." Emma climbed on the bed and snuggled close next to her mother. "Mama?" "Yes?" "Would Marcus help you with these boring things?" Rebecca hesitated, her heart clenching. "He offered help." "And you didn't let him, did you?" "How do you know that?" Emma shrugged. "Because that's how you are, Mama. You never let anyone help. Remember when the neighbor offered to pick me up from school and you said no? And when Aunt Linda wanted to pay for my birthday party and you also said no?" Rebecca blinked, surprised. "You remember all of that?" "I remember everything.
The teacher says I have an elephant's memory. Elephants don't even have that good a memory, Emma. Yes, they do. I researched it. Rebecca was silent for a long moment. Her 5-year-old daughter had just summarized a behavior pattern she herself struggled so hard to admit. Mama? Yes, sweetheart? Would Marcus help you with these boring things? Rebecca hesitated, her heart clenching. He offered help. And you didn't let him, did you? How do you know that? Emma shrugged. Because that's how you are, Mama. You never let anyone help. Remember when the neighbor offered to pick me up from school and you said no? And when Aunt Linda wanted to pay for my birthday party and you also said no? Rebecca blinked, surprised. You remember all of that? I remember everything. The teacher says I have an elephant's memory. Elephants don't even have that good a memory, Emma. Yes, they do. I researched it. Rebecca was silent for a long moment. Her 5-year-old daughter had just summarized a behavior pattern she herself struggled so hard to admit. Mama? Yes, sweetheart? Would you like him? Rebecca looked at her daughter. Those big, curious, knowing eyes waited for an honest answer. I do like him, she admitted quietly. But sometimes liking someone isn't enough. Why not? Because there are other things involved, complicated things. Adult things, again? Yes. Emma sighed dramatically. Adults complicate everything. I know, sweetheart. You should be more like children. We solve everything faster. How do you solve things? We fight, sulk for 5 minutes, and then go back to playing together. Simple. Rebecca smiled, despite everything. Maybe you're right. Marcus kept his distance exactly as promised, but he didn't disappear completely. He sent short messages to David asking about how the case was going, never to Rebecca directly. She knew this because David mentioned it casually during a meeting. Your friend is following everything very closely. He's not my friend. Oh no? What is he then? Rebecca didn't know how to answer that question. Derek, on the other hand, became more aggressively present every single day. Not physically, but through constant messages, endless emails, and relentless legal maneuvers. He contested every document, questioned every statement, and demanded access to information he had absolutely no right to. He's trying to wear you down, David explained patiently. It's a common tactic. Drag out the process until you give up or accept an unfavorable agreement. I'm not going to give up. I know, but he doesn't know that yet. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following week. Rebecca spent the days before reviewing documents obsessively, rehearsing answers in her mind, and trying desperately to keep Emma oblivious to the chaos. It didn't work completely. Mama, why are you nervous? Emma asked the night before the hearing. I'm not nervous. Yes, you are. You bit the pen cap. You only do that when you're nervous. Rebecca looked at the pen in her hand. The cap was completely destroyed. Tomorrow I have an important meeting, she explained carefully. About what? About you. About me? What did I do? Nothing, sweetheart. It's just something adults need to resolve. Adult things again? That's right. Emma sighed dramatically. Adults complicate everything. I know, sweetheart. You should be more like children. We solve everything faster. How do you solve things? We fight, sulk for 5 minutes, and then go back to playing together. Simple. Rebecca smiled, despite everything. Maybe you're right.
Don't be like that. I just want to resolve this in a civilized way. Civilized? You sued me. I sued for the right to see my daughter. There's a difference. Not to me, there isn't. Look, I'll be direct. I know you're involved with that investor, Marcus Sterling, and I know he's financing your entire defense. Rebecca felt a chill run down her spine. That's none of your business. It will be when I mention it to the judge. A single mother suddenly with unlimited resources seems very interesting, doesn't it? What do you want, Derek? An agreement, shared custody, alternating weekends, and half the holidays. No. Rebecca, think about it carefully. Do you really want to drag this out for months, years maybe? If I have to, think about Emma. I think about Emma every single day, something you didn't do for 5 years. People change. Some don't. There was silence on the other end of the line. All right, Derek said finally, his voice losing all its false cordiality. If that's how you want it, we'll do it your way. But I'm going to mention your rich boyfriend in court, and I'm going to question where all the money comes from, and I'm going to make the judge wonder if you're really the best option to raise our daughter. She's my daughter. Legally, she's ours, and I'm going to prove it. The call ended abruptly. Rebecca stood in the middle of the kitchen, phone still in her trembling hand, heart racing wildly. Emma appeared in the doorway, her school uniform already on. Mama, who was it? Nobody important, sweetheart. You're making that face again. What face? The one like you ate something spoiled. Rebecca forced a smile. I'm fine. Go brush your teeth. Emma obeyed but looked back one last time before leaving, concern written all over her little face. Rebecca leaned against the wall and took a deep, shaking breath. Derek was going to use Marcus against her in court, and she had absolutely no idea how to defend herself against that. Her phone buzzed with a message from David. Just received Derek's witness list. There's a name you need to see. Urgent. Rebecca opened the attachment with trembling fingers. The name on Derek's witness list was Margaret Brooks, Aunt Linda. Rebecca's own sister is testifying against her. The courtroom battle in Part 5 will determine everything. You cannot miss this. Of all the things Derek could possibly do, involving her own family was absolutely the lowest. But there was no time to process that betrayal. The hearing was in 2 hours. Rebecca dropped Emma off at school, promising she'd be there to pick her up at the usual time, and drove to the Chatham County Courthouse with her heart beating far too hard. David was waiting for her at the entrance, briefcase in hand. Did you see my message? I did. Linda is going to testify against me. I know, but don't worry too much. Character witnesses rarely change the course of a case when the evidence is solid. She's my sister, David. I know, and I'm sorry, but right now you need to focus. Focus, she repeated bitterly. Right, while my own family stabs me in the back. Technically, she hasn't stabbed anyone yet. Let's wait for the testimony. Rebecca took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Was that an attempt to make me laugh? It was. Did it work? No. Fair enough. Let's go in. The courtroom was exactly as Rebecca had imagined. Dark wood everywhere, American flags standing proud in the corner, a judge with the expression of someone who'd rather be absolutely anywhere else. Derek was already sitting on the other side, next to his lawyer, a thin man with narrow glasses who seemed to calculate every single move 3 steps ahead. And in the benches behind Derek, there sat Linda, her older sister. Same nose, same forehead, but with an expression Rebecca didn't recognize at all. She really came, Rebecca murmured. Keep focused, David replied quietly. Don't let this shake you. The hearing began with all the usual formalities. Derek's lawyer presented his arguments about paternal rights, claiming that his client had been systematically prevented from participating in his daughter's life. David counterattacked brilliantly with 5 years of financial records, proof of expenses, and a communication history that showed exactly 0 contact attempts from Derek. Your Honor, David said, organizing the documents with precision, we have here 60 months of records. No messages, no emails, no letters, no contact attempts whatsoever. Not one call, not one birthday card, not one transfer of any amount to contribute to the child's expenses. The judge looked at Derek seriously. Mr. Collins, do you have any explanation for this? Derek shifted uncomfortably in his chair. My daughter's mother made it very clear she didn't want my presence. I respected that wish. You respected it for 5 entire years? The judge raised an eyebrow skeptically. I was going through a difficult time, personal problems. What kind of problems? Derek's lawyer interrupted smoothly. Your Honor, my client prefers not to go into personal details at this time. Convenient, David murmured, just loud enough to be heard. The judge sighed heavily. Let's continue. Miss Brooks, do you have anything to add? Rebecca stood up. Her legs were shaking, but her voice came out surprisingly firm. Your Honor,
I've raised my daughter completely alone since the day she was born. I worked, studied, and did everything within my power to give her a stable, loving life. Mr. Collins never tried to be part of that life, not even once. Did you ever prevent Mr. Collins from seeing his daughter? No, Your Honor. He simply never showed up. Derek shifted in his chair again, clearly uncomfortable. His lawyer tried to redirect quickly. Your Honor, we would like to call our character witness, Margaret Brooks. Linda stood up and walked to the witness stand with her head held high. Rebecca felt her stomach turn violently. Mrs. Brooks, the lawyer began, you are the defendant's sister, correct? Correct. And how would you describe your sister's relationship with the child's father? Linda hesitated, looking uncertain. She looked at Rebecca, then at Derek, then at the judge. Complicated, she said finally. Can you elaborate? My sister is stubborn. She doesn't accept help easily, and when Derek left, she closed all the doors. So you confirm that your sister prevented Mr. Collins from participating. Linda's silence for a long, agonizing moment. No, she said finally, her voice clear. I said she closed doors. I didn't say she locked them. Derek could have tried. He chose not to try. The silence in the courtroom was absolutely palpable. Mrs. Brooks, the lawyer tried desperately to recover. Weren't you called to testify in favor of Mr. Collins? I was, but you asked me to tell the truth. And the truth is that my sister raised that girl completely alone. I may not agree with all her choices, but I've never seen anyone work so hard for a child. Linda looked directly at Rebecca with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry for coming here thinking I'd speak against you. I was wrong. Rebecca felt her own eyes burn with emotion, but held back the tears with everything she had. The judge banged the gavel loudly. Let's take a 15-minute break. During the break, David approached Rebecca with a contained smile.
That was completely unexpected. I thought so too, Rebecca whispered. His witness just testified in your favor. That's pure gold. On the other side of the hallway, Derek was arguing heatedly with his lawyer. The lawyer was making frustrated gestures while Derek was getting redder and redder with anger. When the hearing resumed, the judge was direct and clear. Considering the evidence presented and the witness testimony, I find no grounds to alter the current custody arrangement. Mr. Collins's petition is denied. Custody remains exclusively with Miss Brooks. Rebecca felt her legs weaken with overwhelming relief. However, the judge continued, Mr. Collins may request supervised visits, provided he proves stability and genuine interest in the child's well-being. Review hearing in 6 months. Derek stood up abruptly. This is completely unfair. Mr. Collins, I suggest you calm down immediately. I have rights, and Miss Brooks has 5 years of responsibility. Sit down or you'll be removed from this courtroom. Derek looked at Rebecca with an expression that mixed pure anger and something else, something cold and calculated. This isn't over, he said quietly, just for her to hear. For me, it is, Rebecca replied firmly. She left the courthouse with David by her side. The Charleston sun hit her face warmly, and she breathed deeply for the first time in weeks. Linda caught up with her on the courthouse steps. Rebecca, wait, please. Rebecca stopped, but didn't turn around immediately. What do you want, Linda? To apologize. Really apologize. Really? You came here to testify against me? My own sister? I know. Derek reached out to me, said he just wanted to see his daughter, and I believed him. I was naive and stupid. Rebecca finally turned around. Why did you believe him and not me? Linda lowered her eyes shamefully. Because we've always fought, and I let that blind me to the truth. The silence between them lasted several long seconds. It's going to take time, Rebecca said finally. I know, but I want to try to fix this. I really do. We'll talk later. Right now, I need to go pick up my daughter. Rebecca went down the steps and grabbed her phone immediately. A message from Marcus was waiting on the screen. David told me, congratulations, you won. She looked at the message for a long moment, her heart aching. Then she typed a response. Thank you for everything. Can we talk? The response came in seconds, whenever and wherever you want. And for the first time in weeks, Rebecca felt that maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight for what's yours? And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life.
Rebecca picked up Emma from school with a smile she absolutely couldn't contain. The girl noticed immediately. "Mama, why do you have that face?" "What face?" "That face like you won a prize." "I did win, in a way." "What prize?" "The prize of continuing to be your mother, officially." Emma frowned, confused. "You've always been my mother." "I know, sweetheart, but now it's confirmed on paper." Adults are strange. They need paper to confirm obvious things. Rebecca laughed and hugged her daughter so tight. "You're absolutely right." They went home, and Rebecca spent the afternoon trying to decide what to do about Marcus's message. He had responded that he could meet her whenever and wherever she wanted. But where and when? And what would she say? Emma solved the problem for her, as usual. "Mama, when is Marcus going to show up again?" "I don't know, sweetheart." "You should call him." "Why do you think that?" "Because you look at your phone every 5 minutes. It's pretty obvious." Rebecca looked at the phone in her own hand, surprised. She hadn't even realized she was holding it. "I'm not looking every 5 minutes." "Yes, you are. I counted." "You counted?" "I told you I'm observant." Rebecca sighed in defeat. "All right, I'll send a message." "Finally." "Don't need the commentary." "Yes, I do. You're slow with these things." Rebecca typed a quick message. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., the usual cafe. Is that okay?" The response came in less than a minute. "I'll be there." Emma read over her mother's shoulder. "See, it wasn't that hard." Emma, privacy. Privacy is for people who don't need help. You need help. Rebecca couldn't agree with that logic. The next day, she dropped Emma off at school and arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. Marcus was already there, sitting at the same table as always, with a coffee in his hand and an expression that mixed anxiety and hope in equal measure. "You got here early," Rebecca said, sitting down across from him. "You did too." "I was nervous." "Me too." "Why were you nervous?" Marcus smiled softly. "Because I spent the last 2 weeks not knowing if you'd want to see me again, and if you didn't, I would have respected it completely, but it would have been hard, really hard." Rebecca ordered a coffee with milk. The server brought it quickly, along with a cookie she hadn't ordered. "On the house," he explained. "You two look like you need something sweet." Rebecca and Marcus looked at each other.
That was completely unexpected. "I thought so too," Rebecca whispered. "His witness just testified in your favor. That's pure gold." On the other side of the hallway, Derek was arguing heatedly with his lawyer. The lawyer was making frustrated gestures while Derek was getting redder and redder with anger. When the hearing resumed, the judge was direct and clear. "Considering the evidence presented and the witness testimony, I find no grounds to alter the current custody arrangement. Mr. Collins's petition is denied. Custody remains exclusively with Miss Brooks." Rebecca felt her legs weaken with overwhelming relief. "However," the judge continued, "Mr. Collins may request supervised visits, provided he proves stability and genuine interest in the child's well-being. Review hearing in 6 months." Derek stood up abruptly. "This is completely unfair." "Mr. Collins, I suggest you calm down immediately. I have rights, and Miss Brooks has 5 years of responsibility. Sit down or you'll be removed from this courtroom." Derek looked at Rebecca with an expression that mixed pure anger and something else, something cold and calculated. "This isn't over," he said quietly, just for her to hear. "For me, it is," Rebecca replied firmly. She left the courthouse with David by her side. The Charleston sun hit her face warmly, and she breathed deeply for the first time in weeks. Linda caught up with her on the courthouse steps. "Rebecca, wait, please." Rebecca stopped, but didn't turn around immediately. "What do you want, Linda?" "To apologize. Really apologize." "Really? You came here to testify against me? My own sister?" "I know. Derek reached out to me, said he just wanted to see his daughter, and I believed him. I was naive and stupid." Rebecca finally turned around. "Why did you believe him and not me?" Linda lowered her eyes shamefully. "Because we've always fought, and I let that blind me to the truth." The silence between them lasted several long seconds. "It's going to take time," Rebecca said finally. "I know, but I want to try to fix this. I really do. We'll talk later. Right now, I need to go pick up my daughter." Rebecca went down the steps and grabbed her phone immediately. A message from Marcus was waiting on the screen. "David told me, congratulations, you won." She looked at the message for a long moment, her heart aching.
Then she typed a response. "Thank you for everything. Can we talk?" The response came in seconds. "Whenever and wherever you want." And for the first time in weeks, Rebecca felt that maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight for what's yours? And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Rebecca picked up Emma from school with a smile she absolutely couldn't contain. The girl noticed immediately. "Mama, why do you have that face?" "What face?" "That face like you won a prize." "I did win, in a way." "What prize?" "The prize of continuing to be your mother, officially." Emma frowned, confused. "You've always been my mother." "I know, sweetheart, but now it's confirmed on paper." Adults are strange. They need paper to confirm obvious things. Rebecca laughed and hugged her daughter so tight. "You're absolutely right." They went home, and Rebecca spent the afternoon trying to decide what to do about Marcus's message. He had responded that he could meet her whenever and wherever she wanted. But where? And when? And what would she say? Emma solved the problem for her, as usual. "Mama, when is Marcus going to show up again?" "I don't know, sweetheart." "You should call him." "Why do you think that?" "Because you look at your phone every 5 minutes. It's pretty obvious." Rebecca looked at the phone in her own hand, surprised. She hadn't even realized she was holding it. "I'm not looking every 5 minutes." "Yes, you are. I counted." "You counted?" "I told you I'm observant." Rebecca sighed in defeat. "All right, I'll send a message." "Finally." "Don't need the commentary." "Yes, I do. You're slow with these things." Rebecca typed a quick message. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., the usual cafe. Is that okay?" The response came in less than a minute. "I'll be there." Emma read over her mother's shoulder. "See, it wasn't that hard." Emma, privacy. Privacy is for people who don't need help. You need help. Rebecca couldn't agree with that logic. The next day, she dropped Emma off at school and arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. Marcus was already there, sitting at the same table as always, with a coffee in his hand and an expression that mixed anxiety and hope in equal measure. "You got here early," Rebecca said, sitting down across from him. "You did too." "I was nervous." "Me too." "Why were you nervous?" Marcus smiled softly. "Because I spent the last 2 weeks not knowing if you'd want to see me again, and if you didn't, I would have respected it completely, but it would have been hard, really hard." Rebecca ordered a coffee with milk. The server brought it quickly, along with a cookie she hadn't ordered. "On the house," he explained. "You two look like you need something sweet." Rebecca and Marcus looked at each other.
"Are we that obvious?" she asked. "A little," the server replied before walking away. Marcus laughed. "Apparently, everyone knows we're having an important conversation except us." "Apparently." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that happens when two people have so much to say and don't know where to start. Marcus was the first to speak. "I need to tell you something." "Okay." "I like you. Really like you. Not as a friend, not as someone who wants to help out of charity. I like you in a way that scares me." Rebecca felt her heart race wildly. "Why does it scare you?" "Because I spent years avoiding this kind of feeling. It's easier to keep distance, safer. And now? Now I don't want distance anymore, at least not from you." Rebecca looked at the coffee in her own hand. The steam rose in slow spirals, disappearing into the air. "Marcus, I like you too, but I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of losing my independence, of depending on someone and then being abandoned again, of putting Emma in a situation where she gets attached and then suffers." "I understand." "Do you really?" "Not completely, but I respect it." Rebecca looked at him carefully. There was something in Marcus's eyes that seemed genuinely sincere, something she hadn't seen in anyone for a very long time. "I need time," she said finally. "How much time?" "I don't know, but I don't want to push you away while I figure it out." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then don't push me away." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because you're rich, Marcus, and I'm not, and that creates an imbalance I don't know how to deal with. Money doesn't have to be part of this." "But it is. It always is." Marcus leaned forward seriously. "Let me tell you something. Before I met you, I spent my birthdays alone because I didn't trust anyone around me.
Everyone wanted something. Everyone had an agenda. And then I walked into that restaurant, couldn't get a table, and a complete stranger invited me to sit with her without knowing who I was, without wanting anything in return. So what? So you treated me like a normal person. That's rare. That's valuable. More valuable than anything I own. Rebecca felt her eyes burn with emotion. Are you trying to make me cry? No, I'm trying to show you that the imbalance you see doesn't exist for me. But the imbalance exists for the rest of the world. The rest of the world doesn't matter. Easy to say when you have money. Fair point. The server came back to check if they needed anything. Rebecca ordered another coffee. Marcus asked for the check. Are you leaving already? She asked. No, I just want to pay before you insist on splitting it. I was going to insist. I know. That's why I'm paying now. Rebecca shook her head, smiling despite herself. You're impossible. I know, it's part of my charm. They stayed at the cafe for another hour, talking about trivial things. Emma's school, Rebecca's work at the veterinary clinic, Marcus's plans for the company. It was light, natural, as if the last few weeks of tension had never happened. When they got up to leave, Marcus stopped at the door. Can I ask you something? Depends on what you're asking. Dinner. You and me. No improvising this time, a real reservation at a real restaurant on a date you choose. Rebecca thought for a moment. What about Emma? She can come if she wants, or we can get a babysitter, whatever you prefer. Are you asking me on a date? Technically, yes, a real date with a reservation and everything. Rebecca couldn't hide her smile. All right, but I choose the restaurant. Fair enough, and you can't spend a fortune. That's going to be difficult. Try. Marcus extended his hand. Deal? Rebecca shook it. Deal. She left with a smile she couldn't contain. When she arrived to pick up Emma, the girl was waiting right at the door. So? The girl asked immediately. So what? Did you talk? We talked. And? And he invited me to dinner. Emma broke into a huge smile. Finally, can I go? I don't know yet. Please, I promise to behave. You never behave, but I can try. Rebecca laughed and hugged her daughter tight. We'll see. That night, as she put Emma to bed, Rebecca realized that for the first time in a long while, she was actually looking forward to something good, and that by itself was already a victory. The sterling rose was exactly as Rebecca remembered. Same dark wood floor, same golden lights in the center that looked like it came from another century. Only this time, there was a reservation. Table for 3, name Sterling, Marcus told the hostess.
It was the same young man from the first night. He looked at Marcus, then at Rebecca, then at Emma, and a smile of recognition appeared on his face. The birthday gentleman who couldn't get a table. That's me. And the lady who saved him. I didn't save anyone, Rebecca corrected. I just offered a chair. Sometimes a chair is all someone needs. Emma tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mama, is he being philosophical? He is, sweetheart. What's philosophical? It's when adults say deep things nobody asked for. The host laughed and led them to a table in the corner with a perfect view of the rest of the room. It was the best table in the restaurant, Rebecca realized. Of course it was. You asked for the best table, she said to Marcus as they sat down. I asked for a good table. They chose this one. Coincidence, right? Total coincidence. Emma looked around with wide eyes. This place is fancy. You've been here before, Rebecca reminded her. I know, but now I'm paying attention. The waiter appeared with the menus. He was also the same one from the first night. He looked at the 3 of them and smiled warmly. The family is back. Rebecca felt her face heat up. Marcus cleared his throat. Actually, we're not. Yes, we are, or almost. It's still in the testing phase. The waiter blinked, confused. Testing phase? Yeah, like when you download an app and it's free for a month before you decide if you want to pay. Emma covered her face with her hands. Emma, where did you get that from? From that game ad on the tablet. Marcus was clearly holding back laughter. So I'm in the testing phase? You are, Emma confirmed. But you're doing well. 7 out of 10 so far. Only 7? You lost points when you disappeared for 2 weeks. Fair enough. The waiter, clearly not knowing how to react, decided to focus on work.
Can I take your drink orders? Water for her, Rebecca pointed to Emma. Wine for me, red, please. And for you, sir? The same. Emma crossed her arms. Everyone drinks cool things except me. Water is cool, Rebecca said. Water is clear and boring, just like Tuesday. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Tuesday? She didn't give up after your explanation, Rebecca murmured. The orders were placed. Emma chose macaroni and cheese, despite being in a sophisticated steakhouse. The waiter didn't question it. Rebecca ordered the same steak she had eaten on the first night. Marcus did too. We're being nostalgic. We're being practical. We already know it's good. That too. While they waited for the food, Emma grabbed the crayons the restaurant provided for children and started drawing on the table paper. What are you drawing? Marcus asked. You two. Can I see? When I'm finished. Rebecca looked at Marcus. He was relaxed, smiling, completely different from the exhausted man who'd walked into the restaurant weeks ago. You look different, she said. Different how? Lighter. I feel lighter. Why? Marcus thought for a moment. Because it's been a long time since I had something to look forward to, and now I do. What are you looking forward to? This. You two. Nights like this. Rebecca felt her heart squeeze in the best way. That was very sweet, Emma commented without looking up from her drawing. Were you listening? Asked Rebecca. I'm always listening. I already told you I have very good ears. Privacy, Emma. Privacy is overrated. The food arrived. The steak was absolutely perfect. Emma's macaroni had enough cheese to feed an army, and the conversation flowed as if they had been doing this for years. At one point, Emma held up the drawing to show them. I'm done. It was a crayon version of the three of them. Rebecca with brown hair and a purple dress she wasn't wearing, Marcus tall with a crooked smile, and Emma in the middle, holding both their hands. It's us, she explained. A family, she added. Rebecca looked at the drawing carefully. Then she looked at Marcus. Then she looked at her daughter. Emma, we're not a family yet. Not yet, Emma agreed, but we will be. How do you know? Because I'm observant, and you two keep looking at each other thinking nobody notices. Marcus let out a laugh. She's right, he admitted. Don't help, Rebecca murmured. I'm always right, Emma declared. It's a gift. Dessert was served, a brownie with ice cream that Emma attacked as if she hadn't eaten a whole plate of macaroni. Rebecca and Marcus shared a lemon pie that was absurdly good. Can I ask you something? Marcus said.
Sure. Do you regret inviting me to sit down that night? Rebecca thought for a moment. No, not at all. Why did you invite me? Because you looked lost, and I know what it feels like to feel that way. And now? Now you look less lost. Thanks to you. Thanks to both of us, Emma corrected. I helped too. You helped a lot, Marcus agreed. I know. I'm essential. Rebecca shook her head, but she was smiling. When the check came, Marcus paid without discussion. Rebecca didn't even try to argue this time. Some battles weren't worth it. They left the restaurant and walked to the parking lot. The night was cool with a gentle breeze that made the tree leaves dance under the lamppost light. Emma ran ahead, jumping between the tree shadows. She never stops, Marcus observed. Never. It's exhausting and wonderful at the same time. Like you. Rebecca looked at him. Was that a compliment? It was an observation. It sounded like a compliment. Maybe it was. They stopped near the car. Emma was a few meters ahead, entertained by a puddle of light on the ground. Rebecca, Marcus said, turning to her. What? I want to do this right. I don't want to be just someone who shows up now and then. I want to be present, really present. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try a real relationship with you, with Emma, with everything that means. Rebecca felt her heart race. Are you sure? Absolutely. Even knowing how I am, especially knowing how you are. Emma appeared out of nowhere. Are you having a moment? We are, Marcus confirmed. Can I participate? You're already participating. Emma smiled huge. So are you going to date? Rebecca looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Rebecca. We are, she said finally. Emma let out a scream that probably awoke every bird within 5 kilometers. "I knew it! I said so! I predicted it!" "You didn't predict anything," Rebecca said. "Yes, I did, from day one. Ask him." Marcus raised his hands in defense. "She kind of predicted it." "See?" Emma crossed her arms triumphantly. "I'm psychic." "You're not psychic." "Yes, I am. A relationship psychic." Rebecca laughed. Marcus laughed. Emma celebrated as if she had won a championship. And there, in the parking lot of a restaurant where it all began, the three of them sealed something none of them expected to find. A family in the testing phase, maybe, but a family nonetheless. 1 year later, Marcus Sterling was turning 35, and for the first time in his adult life, he wasn't alone. Rebecca's apartment was decorated with balloons that Emma had personally chosen. They were all purple because, according to her, purple was the color of royalty, and Marcus deserved to be treated like a king on his birthday, even if only for 1 day. She clarified. "Thanks for the clarification." "You're welcome. I don't want it to go to your head." Rebecca appeared in the kitchen carrying a lopsided cake that had clearly been made at home. The frosting was uneven, the candles were slightly tilted, and there was a chocolate fingerprint in the corner. "Before you say anything," she began, "Emma helped." "I can see that." "What does that mean?" Emma asked, her hand still dirty with chocolate. "It means it's perfect," Marcus replied diplomatically. "Good answer," Rebecca murmured. "You're learning." The past year had been a roller coaster of adjustments, discoveries, and moments none of the three expected. Marcus had learned that living with a 6-year-old child meant never having complete silence again. Rebecca had learned that accepting help didn't mean losing independence. And Emma had learned she could have 2 adults paying attention to her at the same time, which she used to her advantage whenever possible. "Can I open the presents now?" Emma asked. "The presents are mine," Marcus reminded her gently. "I know, but I like to watch." "You like to watch or you like to give your opinion?" "Both." "At least she's honest," Rebecca commented. The presents were piled on the living room table. There weren't many, but they were carefully chosen. A book Marcus had mentioned months ago, a mug with a photo of the three of them that Emma had insisted on making, and a gift certificate for a fishing equipment store that he would never use, but that Emma was absolutely certain he needed. "Do you fish?" Rebecca asked when she saw the certificate. "No." "Then why did she think you needed that?" "Because the salesman said every man needs to learn to fish," Emma explained seriously, "and you've never fished, so you need to learn." "The logic is undeniable," Marcus admitted. "I know, I'm very logical." The cake was cut, the candles were blown out, and Marcus made a wish he didn't tell anyone. Emma tried to guess for 10 minutes straight. Was it a new car? No. A beach house? No. A pet dinosaur? That doesn't even exist. But if it did, would you want one? Probably not. You're very hard to please. Rebecca sat down next to Marcus on the couch while Emma devoured her 3rd slice of cake. "How are you?" she asked quietly. "Good. Really good, actually." "Strange, isn't it?" "What?" "Being good. Genuinely good, without waiting for something to go wrong." Marcus thought for a moment. "A little, but I'm getting used to it." "Me too." Emma appeared in front of them, her face completely covered in chocolate. "Are you having a moment again?" "We are," Rebecca confirmed. "You have a lot of moments. That's what couples do." "You're not married." "Not yet," Marcus said without thinking. Rebecca turned to him, eyes wide. "Not yet?" Marcus felt his face heat up. "I meant, what did you mean?" "Maybe someday." Emma crossed her arms in front of him. "Are you asking Mama to marry you?" "No, I mean, not now. I mean, you're making that fish face again," Emma observed. "What fish face?" "The one you make when you don't know what to say, mouth open, eyes wide." Rebecca was clearly trying not to laugh. "Relax," she said. "Nobody's pressuring you." "I am," Emma disagreed. "I want to be a flower girl." "Emma, nobody's getting married." "Not yet," Marcus said. "Not yet," Emma repeated triumphantly. "That means it's going to happen." "That doesn't mean anything." "Yes, it does. I studied at school. I know what words mean." Marcus buried his face dramatically. "I created a monster." "You didn't create me," Emma corrected. "My mama created me."
You just showed up later. Thanks for reminding me. You're welcome. Rebecca finally let the laughter escape fully. Welcome to the family, Marcus. Am I still in the testing phase? No, you passed. When did that happen? About 6 months ago. I just hadn't told you. Why not? Because it was fun to see you nervous. Emma nodded. It was very fun. You two are terrible. We know, they said in perfect unison. The rest of the night passed in a beautiful blur of laughter, conversation, and more cake than any person should consume. At some point, Emma fell asleep on the couch, still holding a purple balloon she refused to let go of. Rebecca carried her to the bedroom and came back to find Marcus looking out the window. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Last year, the restaurant, how everything changed completely. Regrets? Not at all. Good, because now it's too late to go back. I don't want to go back." Rebecca approached and stood beside him. "You know what I realized?" "What?"
That you walked into that restaurant looking for solitude, and you found exactly the opposite. Sometimes the universe knows what it's doing. Or sometimes a bored single mother decides to invite a stranger to sit down because her daughter was telling the same mermaid story for the third time. Marcus laughed warmly. That too, but it worked. It worked. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking at the city lights through the window. "Marcus? What?" "Happy birthday." "Thank you." And about that "not yet" from earlier. Marcus felt his heart race. "Yes?" Rebecca smiled. "Ask again in 6 months." "Really?" "Really, but only if you pass the next tests." "What tests?" "The ones Emma's going to invent. She's already planning." "That worries me." "It should." Marcus looked at the woman beside him, the woman who had transformed a lonely birthday into something completely different, the woman who had shown him that accepting help wasn't weakness, that family could be built in unexpected ways, and that sometimes the best thing that can happen is not getting a table at a crowded restaurant. "I love you," he said. Rebecca blinked, surprised. "That came out of nowhere." "It did, but it's true." She was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. "I love you too." "Really?" "Really, but if you tell Emma, she'll make a PowerPoint presentation about it and show it to the whole school." "She knows how to make PowerPoint?" "She learned last week, and she's dangerously excited about it." Marcus laughed. And there, in the living room of a simple apartment in Charleston, surrounded by purple balloons and leftover lopsided cake, he realized he had found exactly what he didn't know he was looking for: a family, a home, a new beginning. Who would have thought that a lonely birthday and a denied table would be the beginning of such a beautiful family? What was your favorite part of this journey? Do you believe that nothing happens by chance? Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. And until the next story, remember, sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected moments.